So Hyperloop is actually one such thing that's happening, which is at Thaiyur we are now ready with about a 410 meter long tube, which we are planning to extend to about 450 meters. And when that happens, we will actually be, I think, the world's longest such tube. And definitely, even now at 410, we are probably the only such tube in academic institution that is now going to be available for a global competition from now on. Because current global competitions do not have a vacuum tube facility that's available. So in that sense, we expect that we can actually shift the gravity of Hyperloop technology development focus to India, right? And that's where questions like, is it okay for India and all that stuff? Yeah, I'm like, yeah, why not? I mean, if we do this, right, other guys can copy from us.
So which US it happened last couple of times, and even in Europe it is done.
All these things are happening, but we are in a position where we are able to actually get as close to what they are doing and then overtake them in terms of our capabilities.
What is their tube length actually?
The Virgin Hyperloop actually had, I mean, what was originally Virgin Hyperloop, and then originally Hyperloop 1, then became Virgin Hyperloop 1, then Virgin left, and then came back to Hyperloop 1. They had demonstrated, I think, a 400 meter tube in Nevada, but that company is now shut down. So that company doesn't exist. To the extent I can see, I'm not seeing, I think US leadership is gone, essentially. Europe is actually pretty buzzed with this activity. So in Netherlands, I think they're setting up a 420 meter thing. One of the European companies is setting up a circular tube in the US and so on. So a lot of these kinds of things are happening around. The college competition that we are talking about can now happen with the tube that we have set up, which will be the longest in the world.
Any plans on that?
Yes, of course. So likely to happen next February. So the competition has already been announced last April. So there are at least about 3 or 4 teams in India and a similar number of teams in Europe that are working on it.
That will be a big break for us.
Indeed.
As you said, instead of we going there, those.
Yeah, we will also go there to know what they are doing, versus we also actually want them to come here to participate in a real world scenario of a vacuum tube track where they can test their pods and so on, which right now is not possible anywhere in the world.
Yeah, again, it's a concept, but coming to reality will take a long time, right?
Well, I don't know what is meant by long time. I think we are hoping that it can happen in about a 5-year period. Yeah, if enough funding is made available, we have plans that can actually be rolled out and executed in about a 5-year time frame. Yeah. So we have been in talks with the railways for such funding and so on. Yeah.
Again, what would be the typical model it can work? Is it like a short distance, or is it can go a longer distance?
In my view, I think Hyperloop is actually more of a long distance play. Although there are, what should I say? Explorations of short distance, pilots, simply because it is definitely an infrastructure heavy project. So many times when something is actually capital intensive, people say, I have only so much capital, tell me what we can do with this sort of thing. We then find out like what is like the closest thing that we can do that makes sense economically, and so on. So it could be like, for example, an airport shuttle to the middle of the city where the airport is outside the city, or it could be even cargo from a port to an inland container terminal or customs clearance. So lots of such applications do exist within about a 10 kilometer to 40-50 kilometer distance. It could be like inter-terminal transfer, it could be inter-airport transfer. Lots of such applications exist, which could be in the 10 to 40-50 kilometer kind of distances. But ultimately, it has to actually step out of that mold and then say, let's actually go Chennai-Bangalore in 15 minutes. That's what we want to do. That's where we need to get.
But what that could be in terms of the kilometer speed it can reach.
So our sense at the moment is that we won't do 15 minutes Chennai-Bangalore anytime soon. But the soonest we can actually get there would be at around a speed of about 600 km per hour. That will still take about 30 to 35 minutes. But good news would be that it will be from the middle of the city to middle of the city, and could be like getting into a metro station with just that much amount of security check, as opposed to having to show up 1 hour in advance and all of that stuff.
And again, it could be for the high network by
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. I think that's exactly where doing all these things out of India is actually super important. So we do two things. In all the stuff that I do, like whether it's Hyperloop or Agnikul or E-Plane, any of these things, there are two strands that always happen. Number one is, what is the technology that we have to develop that will bring down the cost, which means that it is globally competitive. Other than the second piece, which is the India labor arbitrage. So there is the India labor arbitrage that is already there for our developmental cost, where we can actually develop this kind of high technology for about 1/10 of the investment money that 1/10 is actually almost like a minimum, right? Many times it looks like 1/10, 1/20th, sometimes it looks like even 100 and so on. But let's not push the point, right? Even if it is 1/10, it's actually something that raises eyebrows. So that's the India piece, that we are able to actually develop high tech at a fairly low cost. And the developmental cost actually being amortized is actually one part of why it would be too expensive to operate and get the money back and so on. That's where you tend to think that it's HNI play and all those kinds of things.